Hi everyone, welcome back to EE with Ruben. Last episode, we tackled environmental externalities and market failures. So today, we'll be talking about cost-benefit analysis and environmental valuation. Let's start. So why should we value the environment? Not as in appreciating it, but as in putting actual numerical values into it. When it comes to policy decisions, like whether to build a dam, protect a wetland, or regulate air pollution, governments and businesses need to know, do the benefits outweigh the costs? CBA, or cost-benefit analysis, comes in on this matter as a tool to weigh the total expected costs of a project against its benefits. If a benefit outweighs its costs, then the project will be considered. So, how do we apply this to the environment? When the environment is involved, things get trickier, as you'd have to be assigning a dollar value to natural resources. That's why environmental valuation methods are often used along with cost-benefit analysis. Let's dive a bit deeper into cost-benefit analysis. To simplify it, cost-benefit analysis works by identifying and quantifying two things: the direct costs and the direct benefits. Let's use a building project as an example. Things like the building labor and/or compliance costs would be considered a direct cost, and the rental income you get from the building, as well as the possible increase in property values, could be the direct benefit. Seems simple, right? That isn't just it, however, as cost-benefit analysis also identifies indirect and intangible factors. These factors are also often linked to and are very important to our environment. An example of this can be how the cost of deforestation includes loss of carbon storage, erosion, and habitat destruction. An example of cost-benefit analysis being used for environmental purposes is in the 2011 Clean Air Act, where the EPA found out that every $1 spent on Clean Air Act regulations delivered about $30 in health and productivity benefits, allowing further investment into the movement. So now that we know the methods for decision making, let's talk about the way to get the information to create our decisions, aka the methods for valuing nature. Since natural resources aren't directly bought or sold in markets, there are a few indirect methods to measure their values. The first is contingent valuation. Contingent valuation is a valuation method where we source information from asking people how much they'd be willing to pay for the preservation of a natural area or the prevention of pollution. A survey example for this type of valuation might ask, how much would you be willing to pay annually to protect this coral reef? Although this method is widely used, it's very controversial as it primarily provides hypothetical information. The second is hedonic pricing, which checks how environmental factors influence the price and demand for certain things in the market, mainly houses. For example, houses on beaches or near green spaces would sell for more. This method helps scientists place value on environmental quality. The third method is the travel cost method. The travel cost method estimates the economic value of recreational resources by analyzing how much people would spend to travel to access them. The idea is that if people are willing to spend money to travel to said site, then it carries economic value. The travel cost method is quite the data gathering method, as it relies on consistently observed human behavior. The value placed by the travel method might be inaccurate, however, as theoretically it only accounts for the resource's direct value towards humans. Fourth is the replacement cost method. The replacement cost method estimates the cost of replacing an ecosystem service with a man-made one. For instance, if we were to find the value of a wetland, we'd calculate the price of a water treatment plant that operates at the same level as the wetland that filters water naturally. For this method, we'd have to use present-day costs without assuming that any innovations will be made in the future. The last method is the benefit transfer method, where we use data from existing or previous things with similar context. It's fast, cheap, but it's not always reliable. Now that we've understood these concepts, let's take a look at real-world examples in which they have been employed to better the course of policies. For this, we can use the Exxon Valdez oil spill, which happened in 1989. After said oil spill, courts needed to figure out the environmental damages. Economists used contingent valuation surveys across the US to find out how much people value the Alaskan wilderness, even if they've never visited it. Those surveys helped determine Exxon's responsibility for over $3 billion in fines and settlements. Another example is London's congestion charge, where in the early 2000s, London faced massive traffic congestion that was choking the city's air, costing billions in lost productivity and health expenses. With cost-benefit analysis, economists concluded that introducing a congestion charge could introduce massive benefits. They also used hedonic pricing, studying how property values were affected by the air pollution, to estimate the true health and environmental costs of heavy traffic. After the congestion charge was introduced in 2003, traffic levels dropped by 15% and emissions fell significantly. Cleaner air increased public health and even helped stabilize property values. Placing values on our environment helps our governments, businesses, and populace make more sustainable choices in regards to our environment. If we can provide concrete values for our environment, we can build stronger cases for its conservation. It is very often that economic development projects focus solely on profits, ignoring environmental costs. With environmental valuation, we can put profits and our environment on the same playing field. So to recap, CBA, or cost-benefit analysis, helps us compare the goods and the bads of economic decisions. And environmental valuation allows us to put dollar values on nature. In my next episode, we'll be looking at climate change economics, including carbon prices, carbon mitigation, and adaptation strategies. Thank you for watching. See you next time.